All right. We are on page 16A3, Daf Tet Zayin Amud Aleph. Says the Gemara as follows. So now we're talking about this whole story of Cherem, Nidui, Shamta, how the concept of excommunication had no chill, as the kids would say. It's very intense and is escalating levels of intensity. I remember once we had a conversation about Cherem, about Nidui, and how serious it is. These things are, in the Gemara's understanding, you're literally placing a curse on the guy, and if it gets to the next level, it's like a death curse. Shema Yisrael. Okay? All right. Now the Gemara says, so we ended with the story and the proof of Oru. Remember that? Oru, the double curse that we mentioned, of Oru Miroz. Okay? Says the Gemara. Uminalan de mafkirinan nichse. Oh, sorry, that was one other point I wanted to bring out. So, in the last proof, the Gemara says, where do you find that if a person is summoned and they don't come, you put a curse on them? Here, Miroz, where either the general or the stars, were not, they were not coming on demand. They didn't have, attendance on demand after Deborah called them.
It was a warning, because we learned that you could give a warning.
Because it said the second time. So over here also it may have been the second time. Okay? But the point was, after she did that, you see it was or the double curse. Now, so what I wanted to say was that what's fascinating to me is that the case of Devorah and the case of Paro are on these earth-shattering, moments. Like imagine, we call an ally nation and we tell them, Hamas is attacking us, people are getting killed, there's bombs everywhere, you got to come be by our side. They don't come by your side, you issue a curse. The Gemara equates Deborah calling in the reserves, of Miroz, to a regular Aiger who didn't pay his bill. Beit Din gives the summons. That's how powerful it is to refuse to come to Beit Din, that the Gemara is proving it's the halachot of that from Deborah in a wartime of Miroz abandoning us to the sword of our enemies. Okay? Just so you see how important the Gemara considers replying to a summons of a Beit Din is.
Right. So
okay?
As soon as they don't answer their jury duty call after 11 irritations, throw them in the garden.
That's the goyim. It's different.
Yeah. This is not a court of Hashem.
It's not Beit Din.
It's not the court of Hashem. So you have an obligation to do it. You have a jury duty obligation unless you got out of it, but it's not the same thing. The court case, as we mentioned, is the implementation of God's law on this planet. They are literally the messengers of God to bring justice. And you're telling his messenger, see you later. I can't be bothered. Nick game. Okay, let's go. Says the Gemara, continues. Uminala de mafkirina nichse. How do we know that if the guy doesn't listen, all right, there's an opportunity for Beit Din to literally remove ownership from his items. So we're going to say this guy owns this property, owns this item, getting rid of it, confiscated, getting rid of the deed. Who can have it? Whoever wants. Hefker. Tichtiv, because it says, "B'chol asher lo yavo l'shlosh te'amim katzat asarim v'azekenim yaharam kol rechusho." Anyone who doesn't come within the 3 days, like the officers and the zekenim said, everything that he owns, yaharam will become harem. And he's going to be excommunicated from what?
That's when we say Yaharam.
Yaharam is like haram to Hashem. That's what we mean. Yaharam over here is not yud and then hey and then haram. That's the causative yud in the beginning of a word. That his estate should become haram. Exactly.
2 days. They used to be like 2 days a week.
Monday and Thursday.
Mondays.
Yeah, they would hold, but that was also for the people of the cities, of the villages that were coming to Beit Din. You could have a Beit Din in the city any day of the week, right? Okay. It was just that they did it on that day. It was open, yani, for business because all the cases were coming. Uminalan, says the Gemara. Uminalan dinatzinan. How do we know that if the court wants, right, we're able to deal with them? Vilaitinan, umahinan, bring them curses and beat them up, so to speak. V'talshinan se'ar, pulling out hair, mashbi'inan, and force them to swear. The Beit Din's powers were extended. They had extended powers. Dichtiv, because it says ve'ariv imam ve'akalelem ve'akem mehem anashim ve'immertem ve'ashbiem. And I will fight with them, and I will curse them, and I will hurt them, etc., etc., beat them, so to speak. Ve'amartem, and pull their hair out, ve'ashbiem. So you see, all these things Nehemiah said is talking about people who were they had a crisis. We think that the only time you're having this intermarriage crisis is today, where people go out dating and marrying goyim. But actually, there was a massive epidemic of assimilation and intermarriage in the time of Ezra and Nehemiah, when they were coming back to the land of Eretz Israel to rebuild the second temple. So Ezra and Nehemiah were the two prophets that were dealing with it, the resettlement of the land of Israel after the story of Purim. Okay? And on that, you see the pasuk over here, Nehemiah said that the court had these extended powers to be able to deal with the issues of the day. Okay? Says the Gemara. Uminalan, how do we know? The kaftinan, that at a certain case, right, they're able to tie somebody up, the asrinan, and as well to bind him for makot, ve'avdinan hardafa, and also that they're able to chase after the person. We're going to see exactly what that means in a second. Okay, how do we know that we're able to do all these other things as well that we just mentioned? Gemara says dichtiv, because it says hen lemot, hen leshorshi, hen la'anesh nichsin la'asurin. Anyone it says that does not do what Hakadosh Baruch Hu, the law of the Hakadosh Baruch Hu, the law of the King of Israel, that is implementing that law, a person could have any sort of judgment that happens. Whether, what does it say? Hen lamot, to be put to death. That we know already from the Torah that Beit Din can do. Hen l'shorshi. The word shoresh means to a root. So over here it's l'shorshi means to uproot. This is in Aramaic. Or hen la'anesh nichsin, or to punish them with taking away property, or l'surin, or to lock them up. Now we talked about this idea. It's a very fascinating concept. In the Torah, there's no jail time. Did you ever think about that? What? Yes, but Paro. As a punishment, we have makot. We have, what's it called? We have exile. We have killing somebody, right, for a corporal punishment. We have, what's it called? Causing knas. Knas, those are types of death. Okay. But we also have knas, where we'll charge you an extra amount of money, a fifth of extra we find double kefil. You don't find anywhere.
What about Ir Miklat? Is that the jail?
No, it's not a jail. City of refuge. Now you have to stay there, so de facto it's jail. But there's no bars on a city of refuge. You could leave. By the way, you could leave and get killed, but not by Beit Din.
No, about the Goel Adam.
The Goel Adam, but not by Beit Din. Let's say the Goel Adam has no living relatives. Let's say everybody hated the guy's guts. No, even his own family. No one's going to kill you. So what happens if you leave? Now, you might be over the aseh, the mitzvah, we said. You might be over the isur of leaving beforehand. But there's no Beit Din punishment of locking you up in prison.
Why is
Did they have prisons? Which wasn't considered a punishment from in the Torah. Now, did they have scenarios where they had to lock somebody up? Yes. Let's say the guy's a escape risk. They restrain him, right? They had to do something or make sure the guy wouldn't run away.
3 to 5 years.
But there's no punitive punishment, a term limit or a term institution. He spends 6 years behind bars. It doesn't exist.
That's why bail reform happened.
What do you mean?
To get him out.
Because
Based on the Jewish law.
in Jewish law, yeah.
They want to get rid of jail.
We're so easy. They're modeling it.
All right. So says the Torah. So, but what are we seeing over here? What was the last one? Ule esurin, and to lock the guy up. So you see over here that there was extra powers, so to speak, that were granted, if you will. Sorry.
Well, it says imprisonment here.
Yes, it says that's my point.
You're saying it never said it before?
It's not in the Torah. This is a pasuk. This is a pasuk in the end of the Ezra and Nehemiah, at the very end of the 24 books.
So maybe
Okay.
they adopted it from the Goyim. They must have.
This was literally from the Goyim.
Okay.
But because he was commanding Ezra and Nehemiah to be administering these laws, right, they would not have exercised that right unless they were allowed to exercise that right
By the king.
by Hashem.
Oh, by
The
Hashem?
king is telling them, you have this right to, you can do all these things. But if it was being put in the hands of Ezra and Nehemiah, then he would not have told them to do things that they would not have been allowed to do from the Torah. Now, allowed to do, and this being one of the designated punishments, are worlds away from each other. Right? Beit Din has in their arsenal things that they could do. But that's not a Torah punishment. It's not even a midrabanan punishment. It's that they could do this if they so felt that they needed to do it. Right? You understand that point?
But how could they do it if it wasn't a Torah or rabbinic punishment?
In other words,
Unless they were given some type of leeway by something in the Torah.
that's what we're learning. So in other words, the Beit Din has leeway to exercise things that they feel they need to do in order to make sure that their words, that they're okay. But it's not a quid pro quo for the Isur that I did. That's my point. This, the punishment is death. This, the punishment is makot. This, the punishment is knas. But 0 times is there a punishment where the punishment is prison. What happens if a guy is disobeying? No. What
Taking
happens?
property.
We have times where a person can lose his property.
In the Torah?
In the Torah. You have times.
But aren't all punishments already covered by everything before imprisonment? So it's, what's left
No.
to punish?
This is not an example of the Torah's punishments.
Style.
These are the powers of the court. By the powers vested in me, you know how you say that?
Right.
There's powers vested in the court. If a guy's not listening, you could do any of these things.
It's not a particular
But it's not a
crime
punishment for.
It's not an enumerated crime in the Torah.
It's not an enumerated punishment for any crime in the Torah.
This is not a crime, is it?
What?
Disrespecting a rabbi or not showing up for a summons.
Yeah.
This is not, we're now not even talking about disrespecting or not showing up for a summons. We're just talking about what are the powers of Beit Din. So we just brought down a new power that Beit Din has. But the point is, it was never brought down in the Torah as a punishment. Okay? So let's continue. Gemara says, "My lishorshi." You said that you could uproot. What does it mean that they could uproot? Gemara says, "Ama'ada Mari Amenechem bar Baruch, Amar Rav Chia bar Avin Amar Rabbi Yehuda." They all said hardafa. What does it mean? It means that a person is allowed to be pursued. Says the Gemara, Hazaku Baruch. Ma hardafa. What does pursuit mean? Amar Rabbi Yehuda bar Shbered Rav Shmuel bar Shelat Mishmed Rav Minadin la'altar. We're able to put in the concept of nidui instantly on the spot. Vishonin le'achar shiloshim. We're able to repeat and continue the excommunication after 30 days. If the guy doesn't go, we have the ability to renew excommunication.
What, is it only for 30 days?
30 days, and then umachrimin la'achar shishim. And then we go to cherem, right, after 60 days. Now, you might have thought the guy did one thing wrong, one crime, one punishment, no double jeopardy. What do we learn from pursuit? Pursuit means that if you didn't solve the problem, we hit you again. You didn't solve the problem, we escalate to 60, on the 60-day mark to cherem, to the higher level, when the person is not listening. Let's continue. Says the Gemara, Amale Rav Huna bar Chinana. Rav Huna bar Chinana said, Hachi Amar Rav Chizda, in the name of Rav Chizda. Matrin be shneh. When we warn the guy, we'll warn the guy on Monday, Shineh, on Tuesday, on the second day of the week. V'hamishi. And then, if he doesn't listen, we give him another commandment. We tell him again, Thursday, come to Beit Din. V'sheni, and then, so what happens on the Thursday? On the Thursday, so Monday you excommunicated him. Okay? Thursday you excommunicated him. Monday, the third opportunity, you put him in cherem. Now, effectively, the difference between the first opinion and the second opinion is, the first opinion is 30 days, 60 days, right? Here we're saying, no. 3 times. 3 times we'll issue the summons a guy he doesn't listen. Each time we escalate. So Monday, then Thursday, then Monday again.
Sure, they raise the punishment. You don't
Sorry?
sure, raise the punishment.
Is that
Exactly.
where we get the 3 times from?
What?
Comes a lady?
Isn't we
What is?
we have to summon someone 3 times before there's a problem, right? Now in the Betin,
Yes.
you give someone 3 shots.
Okay, so we talked about so far in the Gemara only 2 shots.
Oh, the
Right,
third time.
There in the warning.
No,
Right.
the third time you're in the Cherem.
So we talked about 2 shots and then the third time. That's what we talked about. Over here, this is talking about escalation.
Pressuring them.
Yeah. So we said escalate 30, renew new excommunication 30, head to cherem at 60. Here the Gemara is saying no. Monday excommunication. Thursday renew excommunication. Next Monday already we're going to cherem.
Is that because he went to hear the Torah? That's why you would get him on a Monday and Thursday?
Yeah.
Probably we instituted on
Something to do with
Betin
that.
days.
Monday, Thursday.
Not necessarily that he went to hear the Torah, but that imagine the guy doesn't live in town. So when are you going to call him back to Beit Din? On the next Beit Din day. So we instituted something that would be relevant both to the townsfolk and to the village folk. Okay?
Only operates on Mondays.
That's why.
No, they operate all the time,
And they had the
whenever
market,
necessary.
right?
But they were in business and open on those days because those were the days when the village folk
And
came
those
to
are the
town.
market days too.
Those are the market
It's
days.
So the Torah, bring the Torah out. Everybody's together. Everybody's here.
Correct. So we followed the cycle of when the people were anyway there. Same thing as other things in the Torah that are like that as well.
Yeah.
So the Gemara says we have a contradiction. Is it 30, 30, 60 or MTM? Says the Gemara, Hani mili lemamona. That's talking about only with money, where the person owes money. Aval lafkiruta la'alter. When someone is showing contempt of the court, that we do it immediately. So when it comes to monetary issues, we give the guy a cherem. A nidui. Then again, another nidui. Then we go to cherem. Why? It's money. Give the guy some time. He's going to get it. We put a little bit more pressure, so he'll get the money faster. He'll sell something. When it comes to contempt of the court, that there's no tolerance whatsoever. Immediately, they go MTM, Monday, Thursday, Monday. They're already at the highest level. They're already in cherem for contempt of court.
But the money guy is not showing either, or he's showing, but he's not.
Either or.
So why isn't it the same as contempt?
If the guy's not showing in the money, and that's a contempt of court issue, then it would also be contempt. Yeah.
But the money guy is guilty, has to be found guilty, where this is just not showing up.
Correct. The point over here is it doesn't matter if the guy's guilty.
Oh.
The contempt is not in a guilty verdict. The contempt is of the call to court.
Right. No
So
appearance.
if it was a monetary case, but the guy didn't show up, that's contempt of court also. But when the guy did show up and now he's not paying, he's refusing to pay, as an example.
Oh, it's another level.
That's a different item. I came. I didn't disrespect you, but I don't think I deserve it. I don't have paying. I don't have the money, etc., etc. Okay.
What is the 30-day ban? What is the person not allowed to do in the 30-day warning?
So we already discussed
Look at the
nidui
chart.
with the chart. Yeah.
That's the 30-day.
They can't bathe, they can't launder clothes.
Can't cut your hair,
That's
jump up and down.
Yeah. No. There's only 2 things that we said were definitely forbidden:
Right.
hair and bathing, and laundering.
Laundering.
Not bathing.
No laundry, no
Bathing was unresolved.
Hair cutting and laundering.
You smell unresolved.
Right, so unresolved means,
Take
does that mean you could do it if it's
Laundering.
unresolved?
Yeah.
Huh?
If it's unresolved, that means you could do it.
So we said there's a machloket on the safek, if it's deoraita derabanan. If it's derabanan, we go to lekula. It's deoraita, you go to chumrah.
The first Monday minudah already.
That's
If the guy
that's
doesn't come, he's minudah on Monday.
Not do for it.
yeah.
So Tuesday he's a minudah. From the first one on.
Immediately at the first time,
Oh wow. Okay.
because
Laundering and
the guy refused.
laundering were,
Now,
an item.
now, by the way, I just want to point out. Want to point out it was not one item. We had one example of when a guy laundered one item.
When he only
What'd you
had
say?
one,
You said it's a
only had
different
one.
item, or?
No, he
it's
didn't
a
have
big
a lot of
thing.
clothes,
That's
so
when he
it's a
had the
big
belt.
thing.
No, we
He wore
gave
the
it a
belt.
specific case where the guy only had one clothes, and then he had the belt. Remember?
He only had
That
one.
meant that normal laundering was not for one. We allowed the guy who had one
only had
chaluk,
one.
yeah, which means that most guys had minimum 2. See the diuk,
Right.
all right?
only
But no,
I didn't
they
say
didn't do a
one, it's a
load.
lot.
They didn't do a load. Correct. Yes. All right. Says the Gemara. All right. Huh?
Chart.
Says the Gemara.
What year was this thing? The two guys.
You have to remember.
Which two things?
Ezra and the two guys. You said
That's the beginning of the rebuilding the second temple.
What was that?
So you're talking about between now to the destruction, roughly 2,000 years. Bet HaMikdash is around 420 years. So roughly 2,400 years ago, let's say.
Oh, still before.
You be Yeshu, you're thinking?
No, I'm trying to think of the timing. It's still way
Yeah.
back.
Yeshu is roughly the time of the destruction of the
Gemara
temple.
was in the 1200s,
Hello.
900.
Yeah, Yeshu is the Romans.
Yeah.
So that's the time of the destruction of the second temple.
Yeah.
Ezra is the one who goes back to build it. So you're talking about 420 years before the
Yeah.
destruction.
No, because they were referring to these two things.
Yeah, so it's 420 Ayani
You guys
BC,
are way
before cheese. Okay, says the Gemara. Ha'u tabha. Oh, by the way, I just wanted to point out, what if the guy says to Beit Din, listen, he doesn't say, I'm refusing to pay. He says, yeah, it's very tough for me right now. There's no nidui at all. Guy doesn't have money, he doesn't have money. There's no point in squeezing the guy, he doesn't have the money. If a guy says I have the money, we don't put him in nidui on the first Monday.
Maybe he goes to work.
Yeah.
So it's just
No
the
money.
appearance.
He always
Washes the dishes.
Evid guy. Comes
Not immediately, not like that, no. No, that's when a stolen object. If he doesn't
Or
have the money.
payback.
To pay back, exactly. Yeah, but again, unless he stole something very heavy, he doesn't need to go into 6 years of labor. The guy could go work for a week. Okay, ha'u tabha. Yeah, there was a certain butcher, all right? D'it pakar b'Rav Tobi bar Matna. He I don't know if he gave him the finger or something, but he was very derisive, okay? Derisive, dismissive. Imnu ale Abaye v'Rava. So who did they appoint to deal with this act of disrespect? Abaye and Rava. Go see what the deal is. Figure out if you want to put him in thing. Vishamtu. Anyway, they excommunicated him for what he did. L'sof azil paisel ba'aldine. In the end, what did he do? He went and he calmed him down. He apologized. Amar Abaye, hechi le'avid. What should we do now that the guy went and he appeased the other person in the court case? The other guys now, they're best friends. He paid him off, they made up a payment plan, whatever. Lishrele lochal shamta ale tlatin yomi. The guy has not had this ban, the excommunication for 30 days. Lo lishrele, if we're not gonna undo the nidui, kabau rabanan leme'al. They're going to have to, what are the rabbis going to do? They need to, the guy's the butcher. There's only one butcher in town. What are we going to do for meat? The Gemara says, Amalil Rav Idi Baravin. They went to Rav Idi Baravin and they said, Midi shmi'alach beha. Do you have any examples of how to rule in a case like this?
You can't gavel and lift up the case closed.
So that's what he's saying. You can't gavel because it's not 30 days. There's a time limit to the excommunication. We excommunicate him for 5 minutes.
Minimum 30 days.
Isn't that the point of the pressure? The Menudeh has to take so much pressure. I need to take a shower. I want to be with my wife. I give in.
Yeah.
You got to lift it.
You got to lift it, but you lift it at 30 days. Because you don't get a second 30 days. Or you don't get a cherem at 60 days.
Minimum sentence.
That's what he's saying. Minimum sentence is, at least that's what he thought. Minimum sentence is 30 days. Okay, that's at least what Abaye holds. All right? Says the Gemara, Amale. Now, by the way, we pointed this out actually already before. There are 3 different levels. Cherem is the highest, right? Nidui is the lowest, and Shamta is the middle. And the Gemara asked, remember what the difference is between before. So what they instituted was Shamta ban. All right? Anyway, Tachlis, what happens? Now they're not sure. What should we do? They go to Rav Idi Baravin. They say, Midi shmi'alach be'ah. Amalei, he said, Hachem Rav Tachlifa Barabi miyama Shmuel. This is what we heard from the Rav Tachlimi in the name of Avimi, in the name of Shmuel. Tut asar v'tut share. Right? The tut of the shofar, right, is what? What's it called? Got him in. That's how we blew the shofar to indicate that he was a shamtar, right? Tut shari, you could now blow, and what's it called? And take it off. So your idea of 30 days being a minimum, is not the case. Says the Gemara, Amaleh, Hani mil limamona. When Shmuel said, blow the shofar, get him in. Blow the shofar, get him out. That was a scenario of monetary, like we said before, where the guy refused to pay, but he wasn't a contempt of court. It wasn't a derisive response. But to show what's it called? Hefkerut towards a Tamil Chacham. Ad dehai l'sham ta'aleh tlatin yomeh. You can't get rid of it until 30 days. So you can't tell me Shmuel's thing, because Shmuel's case was by monetary thing, which is a lighter load, so you could take that off immediately. So the answer to your question is that in the scenario where it's non-shamta, you could blow the shofar and get rid of it. But when it comes to, when it's non-afikurta, okay? Afikurta. Gemara continues, yeah. Yes. Yes.
As we're doing it.
Yeah, you know why? Because these are already late era discussions. Abaye Rava is the end. This is like the later Amoraim. So therefore, what they were ruling on was being able to look at everything that had come before them. Alma Kasavar Abaye, what you're telling me is that Abaye, who just ruled this way, holds, Hani Betlata Deshamitu, when you have a Beit Din that brought a Shamta, an excommunication, Lo Atu Tlata Achrini Visharule. Other judges are not allowed to come and undo it. It has to be from the same people. Why? What is the what's the proof over here? Because later on, Abaye is the one that's trying to figure out how to get it off.
He wants to leave.
The
other guys want to leave.
No, it's not about leaving. Abaye and Rava were put in charge of deciding what to do. They were the ones that instituted the ban, correct?
Yes.
So now, you see, Abaye went to the other rabbi. He's like, what did you hear about this? Is there something we could do? Why didn't the other rabbi, if the other rabbi felt that he could get lifted, why did he lift it? The answer is, because if Abaye and Rava were the ones that put it in, then they also need to be the ones to release it. Exactly. Correct.
In front of the Rav.
No, but Abaye was not the Rav. Abaye was the student over here. Because he went to ask the other guy if he had a way out of this. So you see, he was asking the other guy his advice.
To save embarrassment.
Sorry?
To save embarrassment.
I think it's more of a procedural thing. That the Shamta came from me, I have to be the one to lift it. In other words, I was the one who said that this curse should land. You can't come along now and just say, oh, you get out. Because you weren't the one that cursed him. My curse from me still stands. I need to undo it.
Is there any appeal?
Okay?
Is there any appeal process in the Beit Din?
It depends. On certain things, yes.
But like here, you don't see any of that.
No, generally not. Because it was ruled upon, it was
Like
ruled
a
upon.
3-panel. You see how it went to a 3-judge to go? You would think maybe it's a high.
Because normally that would be the case.
Right.
When you come into Beit
Generally,
Din,
arbitration is generally not appealable unless there's a fraud committed.
Is there the 30 days?
That's what I'm saying.
Is that their
example.
rebuke or their atonement
correct.
for what they did wrong? Like you-
Correct. It's part of the kapara process for for the lack of kavod to a Talmid Chacham.
That's why money gets you out, because money's not there. But they were
Correct. Money,
disrespectful.
it's only leverage. Once the money's gone, the leverage is unnecessary. Okay? Says the Gemara, Di Bailahu, we had a question. Hani betlata d'shamitu, ma'u demeti tlata achrin v'sharule. You had a Beit Din of 3 that instituted excommunication. Let's get another 3 and take them off. Are you allowed to do that? The Gemara says, Tashma, minudeh l'rav, minudeh l'talmid. If a person is excommunicated by the rabbi, so minudeh also the talmid. Minudeh l'talmid, eno minudeh l'rav. What if someone was minudeh by the student, right? He's not excommunicated to the teacher. Or anyone really, the teacher really means higher than that person, okay?
So not a shofet?
Sorry?
Not a judge now?
I don't know what this means.
It means that, go ahead.
It says one who is excommunicated to the teacher
Yeah.
is excommunicated also to the student. What does that mean?
It means that the lack of respect he showed to the teacher is also indicative of a lack of respect he showed to all the students.
Oh.
That means that the nidui is on the rabbi and all of his students. Halachat kama v'kama. But if I said no to the low-level rabbi, it doesn't mean that I would have said no if I had gotten a summons. That's why we said, remember, that if there's a big judge, we have to include in the summons that this is the rabbi that's calling you. Because then not listening is on a level of that rabbi, which would mean that the nidui was really a disrespect to all the people that are underneath him as well.
That like signing the paper, like Judge 1, Judge 2, and then the bottom is signed like Review Down SE. Like all of them are on it then?
I don't know what the concept of Judge 1, Judge 2, I don't know.
Smaller, and then the bottom one is the president of the bet team.
I'm saying, I don't know. Is that only procedural that the bigger guy signs at the bottom?
Maybe.
Or is it that...
I'm just saying like nowadays. That means you disrespect all of the rabbis on the paper. Not just the small rabbi.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. But the chidush is, forget the small rabbi. If you disrespected the biggest rabbi in the community, all of the rabbis in the community would have been disrespected.
Like an umbrella.
Because if they're all his students. Okay? Says the Gemara, Menudel Talmid, enul menudel Rav, is not excommunicated to the higher level, to the one that's above him. Okay, says the Gemara.
Just listing like top down now.
Minudeh le'iro, if a person is excommunicated to his city, minudeh le'ir acheret, so he's also excommunicated to another city. Minudeh le'ir acheret, enu minudeh le'iro. What if he's excommunicated to another city? Then he's not excommunicated in his own city. Okay? Now, let's just see. I want to point out what Rashi says over here. Look at this. Where's Rashi?
Doesn't look like there's a Rashi on this.
No, there's an opinion I wanted to show you. Oh, that's what it was. It's later coming back on this. Okay, well, we're gonna. It's later. It's gonna come back on this. That's where the Rashi is.
Person is excommunicated. Everybody has to know he's excommunicated, right?
They put up signs and everybody knows. Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah, everybody knows about it.
The whole town knows he's excommunicated.
Yeah.
And they don't deal with him. They don't. This
front thing, low Joe. That's what it says there.
Can he escape to another city?
So that's what we just said. If he's excommunicated in his city,
Only one
it
city.
works also to the other city.
So it's all
But if he's excommunicated in another city, it doesn't automatically mean to his home
a
city.
bigger city, a little city. But what does it do to him though? He has no rights. Like in other words, the people don't interact with him.
Look at the list.
No, I know.
Look at the chart.
No, but that's to him. No, but that's his own personal.
Exhibit A.
But that's his personal lives. I mean, with everybody else, what do they?
Can't cut the hair.
They stay away from him.
Yeah, because it says
They don't talk to him.
Yeah.
Give him the silent treatment.
In addition to not cutting your hair and not laundering, do people avoid you?
Yes. Yeah, we got a whole thing, a bunch of things that they don't do. They doesn't do.
Like you can't go to the game.
Yeah, they say with them there. They're also. Yeah, and anyone that does also is punished as well. Curse, like lots of different things. Yeah. Okay. So the Gemara says, but when a person is minudeh to your city, to a foreign city, so outside, he's eno minudeh li'iro. He's not excommunicated to his own city, right? Now, this is an interesting thing. I just want to express. It seems like the differential that we're doing is not the regular nidui over here. Because if it was the regular nidui, it would be relevant everywhere. We're talking about over here where a guy is getting like a smaller level nidui. Let's say it wasn't that he refused to come to Bet Din. Let's say it was just that the guy spoke not nice to the rabbi. Okay? So on that case, we instituted like a smaller level of nidui. And on that, the Gemara says, if it was to the student, it's not to the master, because he never disrespected someone bigger than him. But anyone lower, they would do this to make him do teshuvah. Okay? The same thing is true, as we said, minudeh le'ir acheret, when it's the smaller city, can't excommunicate him to a higher city. Right? Why? Because for the same reason. He didn't disrespect on that level. So we got to give him the punishment which fits the crime. Okay? But if it was to a large city, then it would even be to smaller cities. Minudel Nesi, what if the guy was disrespectful to the Nasi? Minudel Chol Yisrael. Because the Nasi is the representative of all the, so a crime against the President of the United States is a crime against all Americans. Minudel Chol Yisrael.
To Edim? To give him the crime?
Yes, either to Edim, or if it was done in the presence. If it was done in the presence, you don't need witnesses. They saw it. Okay?
Right, but these guys are all okay.
So you'd have the witnesses built in, like you don't need to signify or specify edut. Minudela kol Yisrael, eno minudela nasi. What if the guy was excommunicated to all of Am Yisrael? Eno minudela lenasi. Why? Because the nasi is higher. So therefore, when we're talking about this quasi nidui, so it would only be to the level at which he had transgressed or disrespected. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says, "Echad min hatalmidim shenida umet." If a person has one of the students that was minadeh someone, and then he died, chilko eno mufar. The portion, that part of the nidui, all right, is you can't undo it
until the expiration date. Right?
Correct, because it's 30 days.
So the judge dies in the middle of the 15 days. Stuck. Doesn't matter. You don't get out of it. You still hang in until the end.
Correct. Even if it's time to undo it. Why? Because since we said, right, this is the Gemara's question. If one Beit Din does something, can someone else take the place? The answer is no. Where do we see it? Just now. Right. The end of the Braita, Shema Mina, we learn Tlat. 3 things we learn from this Braita. Shema Mina, Talmid Shenida Lechvodo. Let's say a person was Talmid, that was Minadeh Lechvodo, because of his honor. Niduyav Nidui. Still, his Nidui is a Nidui. Shema Mina, we learn from here, Kol Echad Ve'echad Mefer Chelko. That everybody who put in the ban, they have to be the ones to take it off. You can't have someone else do it. You can't have someone else do it instead of him without his permission. We also learn that if you have a case of 3 that did the thing, you don't have that 3 other ones cannot come along and undo it. Where do we find that from? Because since Rabbi Shimon said that if you had 3 and one of them died, you can't undo his chelek. Why? Just get a 3rd guy. The answer is everybody's irreplaceable. Only the people that put it in are the ones that can take it off. Now, the Rashi I wanted to show you was on the first one, Nidai Lechvodo. You see it? It's right over here, like about a quarter of the height of the Rashi. What does it mean, Nidai Lechvodo? You have a student that excommunicated for his honor. V'lo l'shem shamayim.
This is exactly the question I was going to ask you.
Not l'shem shamayim. It's not that the guy, he feels the Torah, Ela shetriz negdo. The guy, he antagonized him, so he's now fighting back. Vadai kivan detani en minudeh larav, vadai lo nida el b'shvil kivodo. It's for sure that the case over here has to be that the person, when he did this nidui, it wasn't a regular case of excommunication. Why? Because if the case was, if the reason why the student put him in excommunication was because he deserved a regular nidui, a regular excommunication like we've been talking about all this time, right? Then the nidui is also for the rabbi too. And it says over here that he's not excommunicated to the rabbi. But to everybody else, he's excommunicated. So in other words, this was the Rashi I couldn't find before, because it appears at the later point in the Gemara, but it reflects back. So this whole Braita that we've been talking about, that there's a differential between the student and the master, is in a case where it's a partial excommunication. What makes it a partial or a quasi-excommunication? It's that it's not a case of a Beit Din where the guy refused to come to Beit Din. It's a case where the student, the guy stood up and he said that, this is the law, this is what's kosher. The guy stood up in Beit Din, said, you know what you're talking about? He said to the rabbi, everything's kosher, you're coming here with all your sketch things, humiliates in front of everybody.
So how could he excommunicate that guy?
Because as a rabbi in the community, that's posek halacha, his authority needs to be in place, at least with regards to the laws of the Torah. So the rabbi is saying, what are you doing? Yeah, I'm excommunicating you. Says the Gemara, this is lo l'shem shamayim. Why? Shem shamayim in the cases that are generally listed in the cases of nidui. Here the rabbi feels upset, hurt by what this guy has said. He feels that it's damaging to his reputation. The rabbi has the prerogative to be able to put him in a form of nidui, a lesser nidui.
Why?
But not a nidui that reaches above his station.
Why can't we learn from when the Kohen died, we were released from the city, and in this case with the rabbi who's putting the case on the person, if they die, then the person would be released.
I don't understand the question.
The rabbi is the one who's going to put the minudeh on the person.
Yeah, the
If
nidui.
that rabbi dies, why wouldn't the nidui go up like the case with the Kohen Gadol? When the Kohen Gadol dies, the guy gets out of the Ir Miklat. Are the rabbis responsible for the people? The Kohen's responsible for the people? Same case? The judge dies, the judge is the one who's carrying out the nidui on the person. If he dies, maybe he was the one who's supposed to be praying for the person.
So the praying for the person is where we're having scenarios of natural happenstance. So we're saying that it would have been protected from something bad happening to the person. Here, the guy's being a chutzpahdik guy.
It's real things. It's not
It's right in front of me. It's not something that you would have prayed for.
But what's the punishment for this guy?
This
Same
is
30 days?
30 days, more mild nidui.
probation.
More mild
You could toot him
nidui.
out.
You could shower once a week.
No, you could toot him out.
You can't toot him out.
Yeah, if he makes up.
Only the money I can toot
Only money you're tooting him
Money
out.
I can use to
Yeah,
show
you
far.
could toot this guy. He's not
Right? Yeah, mincha. Okay.
16A6.
This is the longest daf we ever did.
16A6.
No, it's still at the bottom here.
No?
Yeah, look at the size of it. Huh?
16A6.
No, we didn't do this one.
16A5 at the bottom.
Oh, we're ending there?
Lo atu tlat achir v'sharulei.
We're ending at 16A5 at the bottom?
No, we didn't finish that paragraph.
No, but because since
Oh, we turned to the last.
since the next two pieces over here are going to take us into
16A5
missing mincha.
bottom. Right?
Okay, Baruch Hanei Le'olam.